The American frontier was a wild and untamed land, filled with opportunities for fortune and danger. As settlers pushed westward, they encountered not only the harsh realities of the wilderness, but also the notorious outlaws who thrived in its lawless expanse. In this video, we'll explore the stories of 9 such outlaws whose notorious deeds caused disaster across the American frontier. From daring robberies to violent showdowns, their legacies continue to capture our imaginations and remind us of a time when the line between hero and villain was often blurred. Get ready to delve into the dark and thrilling tales of the Old West's most infamous outlaws, the infamous gunslinger John Wesley Harden. Unlike other Old West outlaws who turned to crime out of desperation or greed, John Wesley Harden seemed driven by a different motive. By his own count, he claimed to have taken the lives of 44 men before his death in 1895. Born in Texas on May 26, 1853, Harden showed aggressive tendencies from a young age. According to Old West, he once attacked a classmate, nearly causing serious harm after a dispute over a girl. At age 15, Harden killed a black freedman named Majay. A Freedmen's Bureau agent reported that Majay had objected to Harden's mistreatment, but Harden, from a Confederate family, later claimed he was fleeing the injustice and misrule of post-Civil War Reconstruction, as noted in blood letters in Badman. Harden did not seem interested in justice. He moved from place to place, working as a cattle hand, gambling in saloons, and increasing his number of victims. According to historical records, he even shot a man for snoring too loudly. Harden once said, "They say I killed 6 or 7 men for snoring. Well, it ain't true. I only killed 1 man for snoring." Harden served 14 years in prison for murder and briefly worked as a lawman after his release. However, his life ended the way he lived it. Harden became angry when local lawman John Selman arrested his girlfriend for illegally carrying guns in El Paso, Texas. Harden's threats against Selman prompted action. On August 19, 1895, Selman found Harden playing dice in Acme Saloon. Just after Harden reportedly said his last words, "4 6s to beat, Henry," Selman took action. Jesse James, the Confederate guerrilla turned Wild West outlaw. The life of Jesse James, like many Wild West outlaws, was significantly influenced by the Civil War. Born on September 5, 1847 in Clay County, Missouri, he was a young teen when the war began in 1861. Although Jesse was too young to enlist, the conflict soon reached his home. Union militiamen came to the James's residence and mistreated Jesse and his stepfather. Jesse then joined a Confederate guerrilla group led by Bloody Bill Anderson. He and his brother Frank James took part in violent raids against Union soldiers. In 1864, they were involved in a raid on Centralia, Missouri, where the guerrillas killed 22 Union soldiers. Shortly after, Jesse and Frank assisted in the deaths of approximately 100 federal troops who tried to capture their group. After the war, Jesse did not retire from his violent lifestyle. Instead, he and Frank formed the infamous James Younger Gang. They caused chaos across the Wild West, robbing over 20 banks and trains, stealing around $200,000, and eliminating those who stood in their way. Jesse often suggested that they robbed to avenge the South and help the poor, but there is no evidence they distributed any money. Jesse's criminal activities eventually caught up with him. Though he escaped capture during a failed bank robbery in Northfield, Minnesota in 1876, many of his gang members were arrested or killed. Jesse and Frank then associated with brothers Charlie and Bob Ford. However, Bob Ford betrayed Jesse. On April 3, 1882, Bob Ford, seeking a $5,000 bounty, shot Jesse James while he was straightening a painting on the wall. In the end, Ford received only a fraction of the promised reward. The infamous Old West outlaw, Billy the Kid. Before becoming a legendary Wild West outlaw, Billy the Kid was known as Henry McCarty. Born in 1859 in New York City, he lost his father at a young age and moved west with his mother. By the age of 15, he was an orphan. Despite attempts to live a normal life, McCarty began getting into trouble. According to historical data, one of his teachers noted that he was no more problematic than other boys. But McCarty started with petty theft. In 1875, he was jailed for stealing clothes from a Chinese laundry. However, his story didn't end there. McCarty quickly escaped by climbing up a chimney. Now a fugitive, he embraced his outlaw life, quickly escalating his criminal activities beyond petty theft. As a teenager, McCarty worked as a cowboy and ranch hand in Arizona, where he earned the nickname Billy the Kid due to his youthful appearance. He spent his free time drinking, gambling, and stealing horses. Most historians agree that in 1877, Billy the Kid shot Frank Windy Cahill at the Camp Grant Army Post in Arizona, marking his first killing. There are also rumors that he had killed Apache Native Americans earlier. His notoriety grew from there. Billy the Kid found work on John Tunstall's ranch in Lincoln County, New Mexico. He became a central figure in the Lincoln County War after Sheriff William Brady shot Tunstall dead. Seeking revenge, Billy the Kid and others targeted Brady. Despite this turmoil, he continued to evade capture. Eventually, after another incident and a death sentence, McCarty escaped jail once more, taking a horse and leaving 2 lawmen behind. This dramatic escape marked the beginning of the end for Billy the Kid. On July 14, 1881, Sheriff Pat Garrett tracked him to Fort Sumner, New Mexico. There, Billy the Kid's life ended at just 21 years old. The deadly dentist Doc Holliday, John Henry. Doc Holliday did not set out to become a Wild West legend. Born on August 14, 1851 in Griffin, Georgia, he initially aspired to be a dentist. However, illness and fate intervened. After completing dental school and starting his practice, Holliday was diagnosed with tuberculosis. Advised that he might have only a few months to live, he followed a doctor's recommendation to move west, hoping the dry air would prolong his life. Instead, the move introduced Holliday to saloons, gambling, and a new, more dangerous lifestyle. His persistent coughing made it difficult to maintain his dental practice, so he turned to gambling to make a living. Frequently involved in saloon brawls, Holliday carried a revolver and earned the nickname the Deadly Dentist. In 1877, Holliday was arrested in Fort Griffin, possibly for stabbing a man or for illegal gambling. Unlike many outlaws, he attempted to return to a lawful life. After moving to Dodge City, Kansas, with his significant other, NOS Kate, he tried practicing dentistry again. During this period, he formed a significant friendship with lawman Wyatt Earp. When the Earp brothers headed to Tombstone, Arizona in 1879, Holliday joined them. In Tombstone, he supported the Earps in their efforts to control the town's criminal activities, culminating in the famous 1881 gunfight at the OK Corral, where 3 outlaws went to their graves. When the Earp brothers headed to Tombstone, Arizona in 1879, Holliday joined them. In Tombstone, he supported the Earps in their efforts to control the town's criminal activities, culminating in the famous 1881 gunfight at the OK Corral, where 3 outlaws went to their graves. By 1887, Holliday's tuberculosis had severely deteriorated his health. Seeking relief, he went to Glenwood Springs, Colorado, hoping the hot springs would help. Sadly, however, Holliday passed away at the age of 36. NOS Kate, the love of Doc Holliday's life. No story about Doc Holliday is complete without mentioning NOS Kate, his lover, and the most significant romantic partner of his life. Born Maria Isabella Magdalena Horony on November 9, 1849, in present-day Slovakia, Horony immigrated to the United States at a young age. Tragically, she faced hardship upon arrival. After her parents died, she was placed in the care of an abusive man. Escaping from this situation, Horny attempted to become a nun and later a wife and mother. Allegedly, she lost her husband and child to yellow fever, though their existence was never confirmed. Alone in the Wild West, she turned to prostitution for survival. She worked in St. Louis, Missouri, before moving to Dodge City, Kansas, and Fort Griffin, Texas. In 1877, she met Doc Holliday in Fort Griffin. They quickly formed a bond. When Holliday was arrested during a card game, NOS Kate sprang into action. She set a fire to distract the townspeople, went to the hotel where Holliday was held, threatened his guards with pistols, and escaped with him to Dodge City on stolen horses. Their relationship was passionate but tumultuous. After the gunfight at the OK Corral, Holliday sought comfort with Kate, reportedly expressing his distress to her. Despite their strong connection, their relationship was marked by frequent disputes. In a moment of anger and drunkenness, Kate even implicated Holliday in a murder, which significantly strained their relationship. They briefly reconciled as Holliday lay dying at the age of 36, but Kate continued to live independently. Unlike many other figures of the Wild West who met untimely deaths, Kate eventually found honest work as a housekeeper. She lived a long life, passing away just 5 days before her 90th birthday. Johnny Ringo, the Old West outlaw who died a mysterious death. Most Wild West outlaws are known for how they lived, but Johnny Ringo is famous for how he died. To this day, the events surrounding Ringo's death in 1882 in Arizona remain a mystery, with numerous theories emerging over the years. Ringo seemed destined for a life of crime. He was related to both the James brothers and the Younger brothers, and he even spent a year at the Youngers' home after witnessing his father's fatal shotgun accident. Despite these troubling beginnings, Ringo initially stayed on the right side of the law. According to the National Park Service, Ringo's descent into infamy began at age 25 when he got into trouble for shooting a man and threatening two lawmen. Ringo soon earned a reputation as a gunfighter. Interestingly, he briefly considered a career as a lawman. By 1879, however, Ringo had arrived in Tombstone, Arizona, where he joined a group of cattle rustlers known as the Clanton Gang. This alliance put him at odds with the town's lawmen, the Earp brothers, and their friend Doc Holliday. Although Ringo did not take part in the OK Corral shootout, he was disliked by Holliday and the Earps. When Wyatt Earp's brother Morgan Earp was killed, some suspected Ringo was responsible. A few months later, on July 14, 1882, Ringo was also found dead. A teamster discovered him sitting against a tree with a gun in his hand and a bullet wound to his head. While a coroner ruled his death a suicide, some believe he was shot, with both Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday considered potential suspects. Laura Bullan, member of the Wild Bunch. Some Wild West outlaws chose a life of crime, but for Laura Bullan, it was almost inevitable. Born around 1876 in Knickerbocker, Texas, Bullian's father was an outlaw who introduced her to William Carver and Ben Kilpatrick of Butch Cassidy's Wild Bunch. By the age of 15, Bullan was romantically involved with Carver and had entered the rough world of prostitution. Eventually, she joined the Wild Bunch gang, committing various crimes alongside them. Known as the Rose of the Wild Bunch, Bullan sold stolen goods, forged signatures, and may have even disguised herself as a man to participate in heists. In July 1901, she took part in a train robbery in Montana, where the gang stole $60,000 and split the money. By then, her affections had shifted from Carver to Kilpatrick, and the two fled together. However, their time on the run was brief. In November 1901, authorities caught Bullan and Kilpatrick in either St. Louis, Missouri, or Knoxville, Tennessee. Bullan received a 5-year prison sentence, while Kilpatrick was sentenced to 15 years for their roles in the robbery. After her release 3.5 years later, Bullan decided to change her ways, earning an honest living as a seamstress and interior designer. Kilpatrick, however, returned to crime and was killed on March 13, 1912, while attempting to rob a Southern Pacific train in Texas. Laura Bullan, on the other hand, changed her name to Frida Bullan Lincoln, claimed to be a Civil War widow, and lived quietly in Memphis, Tennessee, until her death in 1961 at the age of 85. The Old West's bandit queen, Belle Starr. Through the hazy lens of history, Belle Starr's legacy is hard to define. To some, she was a criminal mastermind, while to others, she was merely a woman caught up with Wild West outlaws, much like Calamity Jane. Nevertheless, Starr left her mark on the American frontier. Born on February 5, 1848 in Carthage, Missouri, as Myra Maybelle Bell Shirley, Starr had a privileged childhood. Her parents owned lucrative businesses and Starr received a good education, although she also enjoyed shooting guns with her brother, Bud. However, like Jesse James, Starr's life changed during the Civil War. Bud, who had joined a pro-Confederate guerrilla group, was killed, and the family's businesses began to decline. Starr and her family soon relocated to Texas, where she began associating with Wild West outlaws. In Texas, Starr met Cole Younger of the James Younger Gang and later married another outlaw, Jim Reed. She joined Reed in stealing horses, cattle, and money, often dressed in velvet skirts. However, some sources suggest she focused more on raising her 2 children than on criminal activities. Reed's death at the hands of another outlaw in 1874 did not deter Starr from a life of crime. She married a Native American man named Sam Starr, and the couple allegedly engaged in horse stealing and bootlegging operations together. Bell and Sam Starr also provided shelter to more infamous outlaws like Jesse James. It's no surprise that Bell and Sam Starr both spent time in jail for horse theft. In 1886, Sam Starr died in a confrontation with an old enemy. Bell Starr remarried shortly afterward, but soon met a mysterious end. On February 3, 1889, someone fatally shot her while she was riding alone. Suspicion fell on her husband, her neighbor, and even her two children. To this day, her mysterious death remains unsolved. Sundance Kid, the fastest gunslinger of the Wild Bunch, and Butch Cassidy's right-hand man. Harry Longabaw's journey as the Old West outlaw began with a rocky start. Born in Pennsylvania in 1867, he headed west at a young age and was arrested for stealing a horse in Sundance, Wyoming. This early crime earned him his famous nickname, the Sundance Kid. After his release from prison in 1889, Longabaugh briefly attempted to live an honest life. However, he soon returned to a life of crime, and by 1897 was associated with the Wild Bunch, a notorious group of outlaws. The Wild Bunch, known for their train robberies in the 1890s, often made off with substantial amounts of money. While their exploits were popular in the newspapers, they also attracted the attention of law enforcement. By 1901, Sundance Kid and another prominent member of the Wild Bunch, Butch Cassidy, born Robert Leroy Parker, decided to leave the Wild West behind. With Longabaw's companion, Etta Place, they traveled to South America, settling in Argentina, where they tried their hand at farming. Despite their attempts at a new life, their outlaw instincts persisted. They soon resumed their criminal activities, robbing local banks and trains, which led them to flee to Bolivia when authorities started closing in. The details of their final years are unclear. It is widely believed that Longabaugh and Cassidy were killed in a shootout with Bolivian soldiers in 1908. However, their bodies were never officially identified, and no photographic evidence exists. Some rumors suggest that they might have survived and returned to the United States. As with many Wild West legends, the true fate of the Sundance Kid and Butch Cassidy remains shrouded in mystery. The Old West was a landscape of both rugged individualism and ruthless lawlessness, and these 9 outlaws each left an indelible mark on the American frontier. Their notorious exploits, ranging from daring train robberies to violent feuds, exemplify the chaos and adventure that defined the era. If you enjoyed exploring the dark and thrilling world of Old West outlaws, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories from history's most notorious figures. Hit the subscribe button and join us on a journey through the Wild West's most unforgettable tales.